Beloved one, be still right now. Not the kind of still where the body stops moving, but the mind keeps racing. The kind of still where everything inside you slows down enough to receive what is being sent from a realm that operates beyond what the eye can see and beyond what logic can contain. Because what the angels are bringing to you in this moment is not comfortable. It is not the kind of message that simply pats you on the shoulder and sends you on your way feeling warm. It is the kind of message that asks something of you, the kind that requires honesty, the kind that, if you let it do its full work, will leave you different from how you arrived. Your soulmate is wondering if you still care, not whether you still exist in their life, not whether your name still appears in their phone or your history still lives in their memory. They are wondering about something far more interior than that. They are wondering whether the version of you that once looked at them like they were the answer to a question you had been carrying your whole life, they are wondering whether that version of you is still present, or whether it quietly packed its things and left without announcement, the way important things sometimes leave, not dramatically, but gradually, until one day the space where they used to live just feels like ordinary air. That wondering is keeping them up at night. Welcome to Angel Messages for You. If this message found you today, it was not by accident and it was not by algorithm alone. Something deeper than a recommendation system guided you here, because there is something here that your spirit needs to encounter. Subscribe now so that every time heaven has a word for this season of your life, it finds you. These messages are sent with intention, and they are meant to be received the same way. Now stay with me, because the angels did not bring this message to create anxiety. They brought it to create awareness. And awareness, even when it is uncomfortable, is always the beginning of restoration. Your soulmate is not angry. That is the first thing that needs to be said clearly, because when we hear that someone is wondering whether we still care, the mind immediately reaches for conflict, for blame, for the fear that something is broken beyond repair. But what the angels are showing is not anger. It is not bitterness. It is something quieter and in many ways more difficult to address than either of those things. It is a quiet uncertainty that has taken up residence in a heart that loves you and does not know what to do with the silence. They remember everything. That is what the angels want you to understand about the nature of a soulmate connection. It does not operate the way ordinary connections operate. Ordinary connections can absorb distance and dilution without too much damage. They can survive periods of low contact and low attention and emerge more or less unchanged. But a soulmate connection is not built like that. It is built on a frequency of recognition so specific, so particular to the two people involved, that when the signal drops even slightly, both people feel it in a place that does not have a name, but that everyone with a real connection knows exactly where it lives. They felt the signal drop, and instead of making noise about it, instead of demanding explanations or staging the kind of confrontation that would at least give the uncertainty somewhere to go, they went quiet. They pulled slightly inward. They started measuring their words and moderating their reach toward you, not because they stopped caring, but because they are afraid. Afraid that if they extend themselves fully toward you and discover that what was once there is no longer there, the discovery will be more than they can carry. So they are holding themselves at a careful distance and wondering wondering if the care is still real, wondering if the love is still present, wondering if what they felt was genuinely mutual, or whether they were the one who went deeper, who meant it more, who built more of their interior world around a connection that perhaps did not hold the same architectural significance on your side. Comment below right now and write, "I still care." Write it even if the situation between you is complicated, especially if it is complicated, because your declaration does something in the spiritual realm that your silence cannot do. It realigns intention with reality, and it opens the channel that doubt has been trying to close. Beloved one, let the angels take you a little deeper into what is actually happening in this person's spirit, because it is important that you understand not just the surface of their wondering, but the roots of it, where this uncertainty came from, because it did not begin yesterday. It began in a moment, perhaps a series of moments, where something that used to be effortless between you began to require effort, where a silence that used to feel like peace began to feel like distance, where a space that used to feel like rest began to feel like absence. They noticed. Soulmates always notice. That is part of what makes the connection what it is. The attunement runs so deep that a shift in your energy registers in them before you have even fully registered it in yourself. They picked up on something changing in you, some preoccupation, some withdrawal, some turn inward that had nothing to do with them and everything to do with what you have been carrying. And in the absence of explanation, in the silence that busy lives and complicated seasons produce, they did what hurting, wondering, loving people do. They filled the silence with the story that fear writes. The story that says, maybe I am the reason. Maybe I asked for too much. Maybe what we had was not as solid as I believed. Fear is a devastating narrator. It takes the absence of information and constructs an entire architecture of meaning from nothing. And the architecture it builds is almost always the darkest possible interpretation of the available evidence. Scripture says, perfect love casts out fear. 1 John 4:18. But perfect love requires presence. It requires the kind of consistent, tangible, communicated care that reminds a person's fearful mind that the story it is telling is not the true story. And in this season, beloved one, that presence has been thinner than it used to be. Not because your love is thin, because your life has been full and demanding, and the things that drain us rarely give us warning before they begin draining. But your soulmate does not have access to the interior of your experience. They only have access to what you show. And what has been showing, through no malicious intent on your part, through nothing but the ordinary difficulty of being a human being in a demanding world, what has been showing is a version of you that seems further away than the version they fell in love with. Like this video if what you are hearing is beginning to illuminate something you have been sensing but could not name. Your engagement is not just a signal to an algorithm. It is a signal to your own spirit that you are paying attention to what matters. Now here is what heaven wants to say about the nature of your connection, because this is the part the angels are most insistent about delivering clearly. A soulmate is not a person who is perfect for you in the way that a matching set is perfect. Two cups from the same collection that sit side by side without friction because they were manufactured to the same specifications. A soulmate is a person who is specific to you in the way that a particular key is specific to a particular lock. Not interchangeable, not replaceable by something close enough. Particular, exact, belonging. And the belonging between you and this person is not something that distance or time or a season of disconnection can dissolve. It exists at a level beneath circumstance, beneath the difficulty of the current moment, beneath the wondering and the fear and the silence that has grown between you like something neither of you planted, but both of you are now standing in. The belonging is still there. The angels can see it clearly even when neither of you can feel it clearly from inside the difficulty of where you are standing. But belonging, even when it is real, even when it is destined, even when it is written into the spiritual architecture of two people's lives, belonging still requires tending. It requires the ordinary, unsexy, deeply necessary work of showing up and saying, "I am here. I have not gone anywhere. What exists between us is still real to me, and I want you to know it because I am choosing to tell you rather than assuming you can feel it without my help." That work is what the angels are calling you toward right now. Comment below and write, "I choose to show up fully." Let that be a commitment you make not just in this space, but in the living of your actual life, in the conversation you have been putting off, in the reach toward this person that fear or pride or busyness has been intercepting before it could be made.
Beloved one, there is something else the angels want to address, and it requires a particular kind of honesty. Because this message is not only about what your soulmate is experiencing, it is also about what you have been experiencing. And what you have been experiencing is your own form of withdrawal, your own private version of the same wondering they are living through, except yours sounds slightly different. Yours sounds less like, "Do they still care?" and more like, "Is this still working? Is what we have still as alive as it once was? Is the distance I feel between us a reflection of something real changing? Or is it the ordinary turbulence of two real lives trying to share a real future?" You have been wondering too. You have just been wondering about a different question. And that is the sacred irony that heaven is asking you to see. Two people who belong to each other, both withdrawing slightly, both creating space because they are afraid of what full presence might reveal, both interpreting the other's withdrawal as evidence that the love is cooling, when in fact, what is cooling is only the surface, and underneath the surface, in the deep bedrock of what was built between you, the warmth is unchanged. You are both doing the same thing and reading the other person's version of it as confirmation of the very fear that is causing you to do it. This is one of the oldest and most painful patterns in human love. Two people talking themselves out of something real because the fear of losing it has made them less present inside it. And the less present they become, the more their absence confirms the other person's fear, which causes the other person to withdraw further, which confirms the first person's fear, and the cycle continues, deepening with each rotation, until one of them breaks it. The angels are asking you to be the one who breaks it. Scripture says, "A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken." Ecclesiastes 4:12. You, your soulmate, and the God who wove you together in the first place, that cord has not broken. It has been under tension. There is a difference. Tension is what happens when two ends of something real are pulled in different directions by different fears. It does not mean the cord is gone. It means the cord is being tested. And the cord between soulmates,
woven as it is with something that transcends the ordinary, does not fail under the testing. It reveals its strength. But you have to stop pulling in opposite directions. One of you has to turn around. Subscribe to Angel Messages for you if this channel has become the place where heaven speaks plainly about the things that matter most. Real love, real faith, real surrender to the God who sees the full picture when both people in the relationship can only see their own portion of it. Beloved one, let us talk about what turning around actually looks like, because the angels are not asking for a grand gesture. Grand gestures are often more about relieving your own anxiety than they are about genuinely reaching toward the other person. They land with impact and then dissipate, leaving both people in essentially the same place they were before, but with the additional pressure of having made a gesture that now needs to be lived up to. What the angels are asking for is simpler and harder than a grand gesture. They are asking for honesty. The plain, unglamorous, quietly courageous act of saying to this person, "I have felt us drifting, and I do not want to drift. I have not known how to say that until now, but I am saying it now because you matter to me more than my discomfort with vulnerability." That sentence, or some version of it that lives in your own particular voice, is what breaks the cycle. Not because it solves everything, it does not solve everything, but because it reintroduces truth into a space that has been filling up with assumptions, and assumptions, no matter how long they have been building, cannot survive the introduction of actual truth. They are waiting for a signal from you, not a perfect signal, not a signal that arrives with all the answers and none of the awkwardness, just a signal that says, "I am still here. I still choose this." The wondering you have been doing in private, the question of whether I still care, I want to answer it directly. Yes, I still care. I have always still cared. The distance was never about the caring. Comment below and write, "I will choose honesty over comfort," because comfort has a ceiling, and honesty has a horizon. Comfort keeps things manageable. Honesty makes things possible. For those who feel led to support this ministry as it carries these words to the hearts that are sitting in the middle of exactly this kind of sacred, complicated, real love, your super thanks allows these messages to continue reaching the people who need them. You are not just supporting a channel. You are participating in something that is touching lives in ways that neither you nor I will fully see until eternity makes the whole picture visible.
Beloved one, the angels want to speak now about the specific quality of what exists between you and this person. Because soulmate is a word that gets used carelessly in culture, applied to anyone who feels good, anyone who showed up at the right moment, anyone whose presence temporarily relieved the loneliness that is part of the human condition. But what the angels are pointing to when they use this word in the context of your situation is something with far more weight and specificity than popular culture allows. A soulmate, in the way heaven uses the word, is someone whose presence in your life is not coincidental. Someone who arrived not by the ordinary mechanics of proximity and circumstance alone, but because something was arranged. Because God, who works in the lives of those who belong to Him with a precision that makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand up when you finally see it clearly, God positioned this person in the geography of your life at a moment that was not random. That meeting, however ordinary it appeared on the surface, was superintended. It was watched over,
It was intended. And the intention did not expire when the difficulty began. The intention does not have an expiration date tied to whether things are easy or whether the communication is flowing, or whether both of you are showing up perfectly. The intention is embedded in the connection itself, and it persists through every season the connection passes through, including this one. Scripture says, "The gifts and the calling of God are irrevocable." Romans 11:29. What God assigns does not get reassigned because of a difficult season. What God joins does not get unjoined because two people are both afraid at the same time and neither of them knows how to say so. The assignment between you is still in effect, which means the wondering your soulmate is doing right now, while it is real and while it is painful, and while it deserves to be answered, it is not a verdict. It is a question. And questions can be answered. Questions are an invitation to respond. They are not a closed door. They are a door standing open, held there by the hand of someone who has not yet decided to let it close, who is standing in the threshold waiting to see whether you will come through. Come through, beloved one. Not because you have everything figured out, not because the complications have resolved themselves or the distance has explained itself or the season has shifted into something easier to navigate. Come through because love that is real does not wait for perfect conditions. It moves in the imperfect conditions that are actually available, with the imperfect words that are actually accessible, in the imperfect moment that is actually now. Like this video if what you are hearing is producing something that feels less like information and more like courage. Because courage is what this requires. Not grand courage, not the cinematic kind. The quiet, ordinary, inconvenient courage of a person who decides that the risk of being seen is smaller than the risk of being lost. Beloved one, here is what the angels see when they look at the road ahead of this connection. They see two people who have not finished what they began. They see a conversation that is incomplete, a closeness that has been interrupted but not concluded, a love that has been under pressure but has not buckled. They see potential, not the naive, untested kind, the kind that has been in the fire and is still standing, the kind that knows something about itself now that it could not have known before the difficulty, the kind that, if tended properly in this season, if met with honesty and patience and the willingness to be fully present in the uncertainty of a real relationship, will become something with a depth and a durability that the easier version of itself could never have produced. The difficulty you are in is not destroying what you have. It is deepening it. But only if you do not let the fear that the difficulty produces cause you to make permanent decisions about temporary feelings.